The day I realized something was wrong began with a smile. Not mine, hers. Lydia always smiled as if she knew something no one else did. My father called it grace under pressure. I called it camouflage. The morning she came down wearing that ivory blouse and poured orange juice like a perfect suburban ritual, I noticed the crack in her armor. Her hands were trembling, just slightly. "You're quiet today," she said, handing me a glass. "Just tired," I lied. Her lips curved again, too calm, too deliberate. "You work too much. You'll miss all the good parts." I wanted to ask what she knew about good parts. But my father entered the kitchen, half buttoning his shirt. Already talking about meetings and deadlines. Lydia leaned in, brushed his shoulder, and said something soft I couldn't hear. He smiled, grateful, trusting. That was her gift. She made guilt look like kindness. I didn't hate her, not at first. She'd married my father 3 years after my mother died. And though she never tried to replace her, she slipped into our lives like perfume, present. Invisible, impossible to ignore. I was 17 then, too old for stepmothers and too young to see through the kind of woman who built her peace out of secrets. By the time I turned 22, I'd stopped trying to belong to their world. I moved out, found an apartment, and came home only for holidays. That's why it felt strange when she called out of nowhere one Thursday night. "Evan," she said, "can you come by? It's important." Her voice sounded thin, careful, like a violin string stretched too tight. When I arrived, the house was dark except for the kitchen light. Lydia sat at the table, a stack of letters beside her. "Your father's at a conference," she said. "I need your help." "With what?" She slid an envelope across the table. It had my father's name on it, but the handwriting wasn't hers. "Someone's sending him things," she said. "Things that could ruin him." Inside the envelope was a photograph, grainy, black and white, taken from a distance. It showed my father outside a restaurant with a woman who wasn't Lydia. Her hand was on his arm. I looked at Lydia. Her expression didn't change. "So he's having an affair," I said. She shook her head slowly. "It's not that simple. Look closer." At the edge of the photo, blurred but unmistakable, was the reflection of another figure, someone holding the camera. Lydia whispered, "That's me." She told me the story in fragments. A year earlier, she'd suspected him, followed him, taken the photo herself. But then she discovered something else. The woman wasn't his lover, but a private investigator. My father had hired her to look into Lydia. "He thought I was after his money," she said. "He thought I wasn't who I said I was." "Were you?" I asked. Her eyes met mine, bright and tired. "Does it matter now?" I wanted to say yes. But the way she looked, half defiant, half broken, made me realize that the truth might be worse than the lie. She reached for another letter, still unopened. "Whoever's sending these knows too much. They're playing both of us." "Why show me?" I asked. "Because," she said, leaning closer, "you're the only one who's ever seen him the way I have. You'll understand." Her smile returned, soft, deliberate, the same one she'd worn the morning everything changed. And in that moment, I understood something new. She wasn't trying to save him, she was warning me. Somewhere in this house, a secret was beginning to wake up. By the time morning came, Lydia was still gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Her phone went straight to voicemail. My father sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, eyes locked on the window as if he expected her to materialize from the rain. "She'll come back," he said, though his voice was asking for permission to believe it. "What if she doesn't?" He finally turned to me. Then she's smarter than I thought. There was no anger, no sadness. Just a dull acceptance, like he'd been waiting for this ending all along. Later that afternoon, a courier arrived with a brown envelope addressed to both of us. Inside was a USB drive. No note, no explanation. My father plugged it into his laptop, and the screen came alive with folders labeled by year. 2015, 2016, 2017. Each folder held documents, contracts, transfers, names. Offshore accounts in shell corporations tied to his signature. And emails. So many emails. He clicked one at random. It was from Lydia. You told me this would end once the account closed. It hasn't. You're playing both sides. If you drag me down with you, I swear I'll make sure someone knows. He closed the laptop, his knuckles white. She set me up, he whispered. Did she? I asked quietly. He looked up, eyes blazing. Whose side are you on, Evan? I don't know yet, I said. That night, I drove to her cottage by the coast. The road was empty, the sea invisible in the dark. When I reached the house, her car was there, parked crooked in the gravel. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the air smelled of salt and old paper. On the table sat the missing black notebook. A candle burned low beside it. Lydia was by the window, back turned. Her reflection a pale ghost in the glass. I knew you'd come, she said. Why disappear? I didn't disappear, she said softly. I just stepped aside to see what he'd do without me. He thinks you framed him. She smiled without turning. He would. Did you? Finally, she faced me. Her eyes were sharp but calm, like a surgeon's before the cut. No. I kept records of everything because I knew someday someone would have to decide what story to believe. And you're giving me that choice? Yes, she said, because you're the only one who doesn't owe anyone. She slid the notebook toward me. It's all in there, every deal, every name, every lie. But be careful, Evan. Once you read it, you'll have to choose which truth survives. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house, the click of the pipes, the shift of the wind, felt like it carried her name. Lydia moved quietly downstairs, her footsteps soft as silk. Through the crack of my door, I saw the glow from the study. Curiosity won over restraint. She was sitting at my father's desk, the one he never let anyone touch. A single lamp carved her face into light and shadow. She was holding something, a small black notebook, and turning the pages as if afraid of what they might say back. When I stepped into the doorway, she didn't startle. She just said, "You shouldn't be awake. Neither should you." Her fingers hovered over a page, then closed the book. He kept everything, she murmured. Every transaction, every contact, even the ones that could destroy him. What are you talking about? She looked up, and her smile, God. That smile, cut through the room like a blade hidden in velvet. Your father isn't who you think he is. I waited, but she didn't continue. Then who is he? The kind of man who hides behind other people's sins, she said. And the kind who'd rather I take the blame if they ever surface. I stared at her, trying to read what was truth and what was theater. Lydia never lied outright, she just rearranged the truth until it knelt in front of her. The next morning, my father returned. He was in good spirits, or pretending to be. You're here, he said when he saw me. Finally decided you missed us? Lydia smiled from the stove. He's always welcome, aren't you, Evan? I didn't answer. Their marriage had become performance art, perfect dialogue, perfect silence. Perfect tension simmering beneath the surface. At breakfast, I mentioned the letters. My father's face froze for a fraction of a second before he laughed it off. Someone trying to stir trouble. Happens when you work with powerful people. What people? I asked. He looked at me sharply. Lydia's spoon paused mid-air. Investors, he said finally. That's all. But I saw it, the way his hand trembled slightly as he picked up his coffee. After he left for the office, Lydia turned to me. You see it now, don't you? See what? That smile, she said. He learned it from me. Over the next week, the letters kept coming. Some addressed to my father. Some, shockingly, to me. Each one contained a photograph, a receipt, a memory I didn't own. They painted a version of our family I barely recognized. Shady deals, fake charities. Money shifted offshore. Lydia examined each one with an almost tender fascination. He covered his tracks well, she said, but not well enough. Why keep these? I asked. Because, she said, they're leverage. She caught my look and added, don't judge me, Evan. Survival has its own ethics. I should have walked away. Instead, I found myself helping her sort through the evidence, names, numbers, dates. I told myself I was protecting my father. But deep down I knew I wanted to know which of them was worse. On Friday, Lydia invited me to dinner. Just the two of us. Candlelight, wine, the kind of quiet that makes you forget it's dangerous. You've always been smarter than him, she said, pouring another glass. You see people for what they are. I see you, I said. Her smile flickered. Then tell me, what do you see? Someone who loves control more than truth. She laughed softly. And yet here you are, helping me. Maybe I want to know how far you'll go. Her eyes glimmered in the low light. You already know. The question is, how far will you? Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, the air thickened with something unnamed. I left before the storm broke, but her voice followed me out. Careful, Evan. Once you start digging, you don't get to choose what you find. That night, I dreamed of the photograph again, my father outside the restaurant. Lydia's reflection in the window. But this time, there was a third figure behind them both, me, camera in hand. I woke up sweating, unsure if it was memory or prophecy. When I went downstairs, the study door was open. The desk drawers were empty. The notebook was gone. So was Lydia. On the kitchen counter, a single envelope waited, no name, no stamp. Only one sentence scrawled inside. When the truth smiles at you, don't smile back. The storm outside finally broke. And for the first time, I wasn't sure who the real danger had been all along, my father's secrets or hers. A month passed before anyone mentioned her again. The house was too quiet, the kind of silence that waits to be filled. My father moved through his days like a man rehearsing how to exist. He ate, he worked, he didn't smile. When people at his firm asked where Lydia was, he told them she was visiting family. The lie slid out so easily I almost admired it. One morning, as I was leaving for work, a black car idled at the curb. A woman stepped out, tall, dark coat, hair pinned up. Lydia. Can we talk? She asked. My first instinct was to walk away, but her eyes caught me. They always did. I nodded, wordless, and we sat in the car, the doors closed against the world. I didn't come to apologize, she said. You were right to burn it. You know? I watched, she said simply. From the street. Then why not stop me? Because it needed to end, she said. All of it. The records, the leverage, the power games. I built a cage, Evan. You just lit the match. She reached into her coat and handed me an envelope, plain, unsealed. Inside was a single photograph, her and my father, standing on the pier years ago. Sunlight in their eyes. She was smiling. He was too. Keep it, she said. He'll never look at it again. What do you want from me? To tell him I'm leaving for good, she said. No more letters, no more ghosts. I nodded, though something in her tone made me hesitate. You're sure? She smiled that small, knowing smile. No one ever leaves clean, Evan. But we can try. When I turned to ask where she'd go, the passenger door opened. And she was already gone, walking down the street into the gray morning. Her silhouette dissolving into fog. I gave the photo to my father that night. He stared at it for a long time, fingers trembling. She sent this? Yes. He nodded, set it face down on the table. She's gone? Seems so. He poured himself a glass of water and drank slowly. Maybe she was right, he said. Maybe we were all liars pretending it was love. Maybe it was both, I said. He looked at me, half smiling for the first time in months. You sound like her. Maybe I learned it from both of you. He laughed quietly. Then God help whoever loves you next. Days became weeks. Life, stubborn as always, returned. My father started volunteering, something about giving back. I took on extra work, anything to stay busy. But at night, when I passed the study, I'd still expect to see Lydia's reflection in the glass, writing, planning, plotting. Instead, there was only me, caught in the same light, wondering if I was any different. Then, one evening, a small envelope arrived, no address, just my name. Inside was a folded note. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about leaving them with the truth and seeing what they do with it. No signature. But I didn't need one. That weekend, I went back to the coast. The sea was calm, the air sharp. Lydia's cottage stood empty, the windows shuttered. Through the glass I could see dust, a few books, and a teacup still resting on the counter. She'd left everything behind, as if she'd planned her own disappearance perfectly. I walked down to the pier, the same spot where she'd once stood in that photograph. The wind carried the faint scent of salt and something like memory. I took the picture from my pocket and laid it on the wood. You got what you wanted, I said quietly. He remembers you. A wave broke against the rocks, scattering spray over the dock. When it cleared, the photograph was gone, washed into the sea. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Don't look for me. You already know how the story ends. No name, no location, just that voice, still smiling through text. For the first time, I smiled too. Not because I forgave her, but because I finally understood her. Lydia didn't destroy people, she revealed them. My father's greed, my own curiosity, the family's fragile facade. Her smile had been the mirror none of us wanted to face. And now, with her gone, I realized something even colder, somewhere along the way. I had learned to smile just like her. The mirror in the rearview caught it, the curve of my mouth, soft and unreadable. Dangerous, just like hers. Autumn came early that year, the kind that smells of wet leaves and endings. My father and I spoke less. The house had grown used to her absence. Like a wound learning to live around its own scar. He still kept her photograph, though he never looked at it. It sat on his desk face down, collecting dust beside unpaid bills. One night, I came home late to find the front door ajar. My father's voice drifted from the study, low, measured, speaking to someone. Then a laugh, soft and unfamiliar. I froze. When I stepped closer, Lydia was standing in the lamplight. She looked the same and entirely different, hair shorter, clothes plain, eyes hollow but bright. She turned, saw me, and smiled like no time had passed at all. "Hello, Evan." I couldn't move. My father looked at me, pale and shaken. "She came back," he said simply, as if those 3 words explained anything. "Why?" I asked. Lydia's gaze didn't waver. "Because running doesn't erase what we did. And because someone has to decide what survives us." They sat opposite each other like rivals in an old photograph. She poured him a drink. He didn't touch it. "You could have stayed gone," he said. "I tried," she answered. "But your investors didn't." He blinked. "What?" "They came to me," she said. "Wanted my help moving what's left of the money. They think you'll take the fall." I told them I wasn't part of it anymore. "And now?" She leaned forward. "Now they're threatening to leak everything, to the press, to the feds. Unless we make them disappear." He laughed bitterly. "You really haven't changed." Her voice sharpened. "Neither have you." I stood at the doorway, half invisible, heart pounding. It hit me then. I wasn't a bystander anymore. I was the only one left clean enough to burn. That night, I found Lydia outside, smoking in the cold. The moonlight caught her profile, calm as marble. "You're lying again," I said. She didn't deny it, only partly. "What do you really want?" "Peace," she said, "and maybe a chance to end this on my terms." "Why come back?" She looked at me, eyes softer now. "Because you still believe in endings." Her hand trembled as she took another drag. "They won't stop, Evan. Your father's debts, those men, they'll keep digging until one of us disappears for good." "Then let me help," I said. She exhaled smoke and something like a laugh. "You sound like him." By dawn, my father was gone. The study door was open, the safe empty. He'd taken what remained: money, records, maybe guilt. On the desk was a single note. "Tell her I did what I should have done years ago. Tell her it's finished." Lydia read it without blinking. "He's not running," she said. "He's trading one kind of punishment for another." "Meaning?" "He's going to them." The idea made my stomach twist. "He'll never survive that." "No," she said quietly. "He knows." We found him that night. The motel was cheap, half a mile from the industrial district. The police were already there. A single shot to the chest. No sign of struggle. Beside the bed, on the nightstand, lay the same photograph of him and Lydia on the pier, creased, water-stained, folded into itself like a prayer that forgot its words. The officer handed it to me. "Looks like he'd been there for hours." Lydia stood in the doorway, face blank, eyes burning. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "He always needed to control the ending." After the funeral, the house felt unbearable. Reporters called, investigators sent letters, lawyers circled like vultures. Lydia stayed, quietly packing boxes, sorting papers with surgical precision. "You should go," I told her. "And leave you to clean it all up?" "I'll manage." Her eyes softened. "You're too much like him." "Maybe that's your fault." She smiled faintly. "Then it's the only thing I don't regret." I wanted to hate her. Instead, I asked, "What now?" She looked at the window. "Now we disappear properly." 2 weeks later, I came home to find her gone again. No note this time, no envelope, no message. Just the lingering trace of her perfume, lavender and smoke, and the faintest indentation on the couch cushion, as if she'd been sitting there deciding something. In her place, on the desk, was a small glass figurine, a bird mid-flight, its wings fragile and clear. Under it, a scrap of paper in her handwriting. Every lie breaks like glass, eventually. Some just take longer to fall. I held the bird up to the light. It caught the sun, scattering colors across the walls. For the first time, her smile didn't haunt me, it illuminated the ruin she'd left behind. Outside, the world moved on. Cars, voices, the sound of life continuing. I placed the glass bird on the windowsill and let it glow there. A final reminder of the woman who taught me that truth, when broken, still reflects. And when I caught my own reflection beside it, I saw what she must have seen years ago, the same quiet danger curling at the corner of my mouth. Her smile, living on through mine. Winter came quietly, as if it didn't want to disturb the wreckage we'd made. The house was empty now. My father's things were gone. Lydia's scent had faded from the walls. Only the glass bird remained, gathering dust on the windowsill. In the morning, sunlight would strike its wings and scatter light across the floor, brief, beautiful, temporary. That's how memory works, I thought. It burns just long enough to prove it was real. I'd stopped expecting phone calls or confessions. The lawyers closed the estate, the investors vanished into whatever shadows had built them. Officially, the case was over. Unofficially, no one ever forgets a scandal. Sometimes, when I walked through town, people would look at me a second too long. Like they were trying to place me in a story they'd half heard and didn't want to believe. I never corrected them. It was easier to let the silence tell its version. One afternoon, while cleaning out the study, I found a sealed envelope at the back of the desk drawer. My name, Lydia's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Evan, if you're reading this, it means the house has finally gone quiet. I never knew how to love without destroying something first. Maybe that's what survival does. It teaches you to build with fire. Don't carry our mistakes like inheritance. Break the pattern before it breaks you. There was nothing else inside. No address, no return mark. Just that message, half apology, half prophecy. I placed it beside the glass bird and watched them both catch the afternoon light. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. Just the slow, dull ache of understanding. Months passed. I moved out of the city, took a teaching job at a small college near the coast. The sea was the same one that had witnessed everything, though it felt older now, as if it, too, had learned to keep secrets. My students knew nothing about who I'd been. I taught literature, the kind that pretends fiction can save us from ourselves. Sometimes, when I caught my reflection in the classroom window, I'd see her ghost behind me, not as accusation, but as memory. A faint outline smiling, reminding me that survival and deceit often share the same expression. Spring arrived in small, hesitant ways, gulls returning, rain softening the ground. The sky learning how to be blue again. One evening, I drove to the pier where everything had ended. The wood was weathered, the air salt stung. I brought the glass bird with me. It felt fragile in my palm, almost weightless. There were children playing near the shore, laughter slicing through the wind. I envied them, their innocence, their unawareness of how thin the line is between love and ruin. I set the bird on the edge of the pier. It caught the sunset and shimmered gold. Then a gust of wind lifted it, and for a heartbeat, it seemed to fly before falling into the sea. I didn't reach for it. Some things are meant to be lost. Driving home, I realized I hadn't thought of Lydia in days. Not with bitterness, not with longing, just with the quiet gratitude reserved for people who change you in ways you never wanted but somehow needed. She had been danger and salvation, destruction and revelation. My father once said she could make a lie sound like mercy. I think now he was wrong. She made mercy look like a lie, and maybe that's what saved me. Years later, I received a postcard with no return address. A photograph of a coastline I didn't recognize. On the back, just 3 words. Still smiling. L. I laughed, not out of surprise but recognition. She would never stop being a ghost who refused to haunt quietly. I pinned the card above my desk. My students sometimes asked who it was from. I told them it was a reminder that even the worst stories deserve an ending that breathes. At dusk, the light slants through my office window, scattering across the books, the papers. My hands. The same golden hue that once fell across her face when she smiled in that kitchen. Years ago. I smile back this time, not because I forgive her, but because I finally understand what she was trying to teach me. That the most dangerous people are rarely villains, they're the ones who make you believe you're safe while teaching you how to break beautifully. Outside, the sea wind carries the faint sound of gulls and distant laughter. I close my eyes and let it pass through me, not as memory, but as release. And when I open them again, the light has shifted. The day is gone. The silence is kind. Somewhere, I think, Lydia would approve.